The Oppenheimer matter quickly became a cause célèbre, with Strauss frequently being cast in the role of villain. This was an image that would persist in both the near term and in the longer term. Strauss had his defenders as well, who saw the hero and villain roles as being reversed. Such polarized assessments followed Strauss for much of his career. Even such matters as the unusual Southern-based pronunciation of his surname could be perceived as a puzzling artificiality. Pointedly, in a 1997 essay in the New York Times Book Review commenting on the Oppenheimer matter, literary critic Alfred Kazan assailed Strauss as one who pronounced his own name, ʻstrɔːz, to make himself sound less Jewish. Strauss had been a quite prominent leader in Jewish causes and organizations throughout his life. However, and this particular charge was fundamentally implausible. In any case, Strauss's personality was not simply categorized. A mid-1950 interviewer, political scientist Warner R. Schilling, found him bland and courteous in one session but prickly and temperamental in a second session. As Alden Whitman's front-page obituary of Strauss for the New York Times stated, for about a dozen years at the outset of the atomic age, Louis Strauss, an urbane but sometimes thorny former banker with a gifted amateur's knowledge of physics, was a key figure in the shaping of United States thermonuclear policy. In the years of his mightiest influence in Washington, the owlish-faced Mr. Strauss puzzled most observers. He was, on the one hand, a sociable person who enjoyed dinner parties and who was adept at prestidigitation. And, on the other hand, he gave the impression of intellectual arrogance. He could be warm-hearted yet seem at times like a stuffed shirt. He could make friends yet create antagonisms. At the start of his 1962 memoir, Strauss states his belief that the right to live in the social order established at the American founding is so priceless a privilege that no sacrifice to preserve it is too great. This sentiment became the basis of the title of, and the interpretative framework for, No Sacrifice Too Great, historian Richard Foer's 1984 biography of Strauss, which was authorized by the Strauss estate. In it, Foer acknowledges the ugly and unlawful episodes in Strauss's life, but presents them as the acts of a man with integrity who felt compelled to do what was necessary to protect the nation. Historian Barton J. Bernstein disagrees with this approach, saying that the framework is too generous and that Foer is seeing Strauss as a man of great integrity, Strauss's own claim, rather than as a man who used such claims to conceal sleazy behavior. Decades after his death, historians continue to examine Strauss's records and actions. Scholar of the early Cold War period Ken Young studied the historiography of H-bomb development and scrutinized the role that Strauss played in trying to form that history to his benefit. In particular, Young looked at the publication during 1953 and 1954 of a popular magazine article and book that promoted a highly distorted notion that the hydrogen bomb project had been unreasonably stalled, both before Truman's decision and after, by a small group of American scientists working against the national interest. Also that Strauss was one of the heroes who had overcome this cabal's efforts. Young points to circumstantial archival evidence that Strauss was behind both publications and may well have given classified information to the book authors involved, James R. Shepley and Clay Blair Jr. Along the same lines, historian Priscilla Johnson Macmillan has identified archival evidence which suggests to some degree that Strauss was in collusion with William Borden, the congressional staff member who after leaving that position wrote the November 1953 letter that triggered the Oppenheimer security hearing. Macmillan has also made the evidentiary case that, following that letter, Strauss was likely behind Eisenhower's blank wall directive to separate Oppenheimer from nuclear secrets. Even Strauss's smaller deceptions, such as concocting an excuse to publish the transcript of the Oppenheimer security hearing even though witnesses had been promised their testimony would remain secret, rebounded against him, as the transcript showed how the hearing had taken the form of an inquisition.